Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Boy, have I got a treat for you guys today. You know, they say action movies are dead. In Hollywood, they say there's no good plot lines out there anymore. Have I got a plot line for you? I read a crime fiction book this week that I want to bring to your attention. It's by a New York Times bestselling author, Christopher Reich. He's got a brand new book out there. It's called Matterhorn. And this book, folks, I got to bring to your attention because it is absolutely spectacular. In fact, when you read along with it, you can see the movie. Now, normally when you say that, it makes people cringe, but I'm telling you, this book is so good. This spy thriller is so good that you can see the movie. Now, to me, I don't see any particular actor. In fact, I don't want to tell Christopher who I see as the main villain here, because I think he has his vision of who the main villain is. I have my version of who I think the main villain is. And you know what? I may tell him. But I digress. It is a wonderful book that we'll get into as to the characters in this book. And I want to find out exactly who from Christopher he got this inspiration from, because it is so different. It's so refreshing. And I want you guys to check this book out. It truly is something else. Let me tell you a little bit about Christopher before we bring him on today. New York Times bestselling author Christopher Reich has lived a life as exciting and fast-paced, though thankfully not as dangerous as any of his protagonists in this book, Matterhorn. He was born in Tokyo. He divided his youth between Southern California and Switzerland. It was in the Swiss Alps where he first developed his love of mountaineering. We'll talk to him about that. He earned his undergraduate degree from the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University, his MBA from the University of Texas at Austin. Upon graduation, he worked for the Union Bank of Switzerland in Zurich and Hong Kong before founding a watch company in Switzerland. Mr. Reich left the corporate world for good at age 32 to pursue a career as a novelist. His first international thriller, Numbered Account, drew upon his experiences working in the super secret world of Swiss banking. The book sold more than 1 million copies in 22 countries around the globe. He spent a combined 12 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. He has since penned 14 acclaimed bestsellers, including Rules of Deception and The Patriots Club, which won the International Thrillers Writers' Inaugural Thriller Award for Outstanding Novel. His series, The Take, featuring debonair private spy Simon Risk, is in production at Netflix as a limited television series to be directed by Oscar and BAFTA winner Edward Berger from All Is Quiet on the Western Front. This novel, Matterhorn, is out by Thomas and Mercer right now. We have a link in the description of this program. Let's welcome in to True Crime Tuesday, Christopher Reich. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Jim, good to see you or meet you. Thank you for having me. Great
to meet you, my friend. First of all, I tip many, many caps in your direction for this book, Matterhorn. My gosh. You know, I said it in the intro. I'll say it again. As I read this book, I see the movie. You said something interesting. We were talking before the show. This was a movie, wasn't it? Before you wrote the book.
This was inspired. I wrote a screenplay first, wanting to bring my love of the mountains, and especially of this mountain, the Matterhorn, the most iconic, recognizable mountain in the world, to the big screen. I was inspired really by the climber Alex Honnold, who was featured or the star of the documentary Free Solo. And he's the man that climbed El Capitan without any ropes, which even now makes my palms sweat. I thought, my God, we have to bring this type of daredeviltry, this kind of insane athletic accomplishment, bring it to the big screen, our cinema screen, you know, at the local Regal or Edwards Cinema. And so that was my inspiration. I said, I want to tell a story that is where the Matterhorn is featured, because what's so interesting these days, you know, is the way people climb. It would take someone like me, Tim, takes me about 9 hours to go up and down the Matterhorn. It's 4,000 feet up, 4,000 feet down, and you're roped in the whole way. But now people set speed records trying to almost run up the Matterhorn, and they make it up and down in about 75 or 80 minutes.
Oh, my God.
And of course, one false step and you fall 4,000 feet, there's nothing to catch you. There's no grassy slopes. It's just stones and the nice ice cold Swiss air that you will be plummeting through. So I thought, my goodness, I want to bring this stuff, but put it in the form of a movie. And then I turned that screenplay into this book, Matterhorn.
Okay, Christopher, I've got to stop you right there. And I've got to get a sense of the Matterhorn from your perspective, because a nice, doughy, soft guy like me is never going to climb the Matterhorn. So I have to ask you this from your perspective. Mm-hmm. You get on that mountain and you start to climb, and I get a sense of it from reading through your eyes, this book, the sense of fear when you first get there, when you start to look for handholds and you start to climb, even if you have a rope, right? Or a safety rope, whatever you have, whatever you've got on you to try and climb this, it's you against nature. But still, as you're getting up there and you say 4,000 feet, to me, I've got a natural fear of heights. I can't imagine, I'd have to keep looking up, but then the minute you look down, I've got to think that there's tunnel vision first, and second, how do you put one foot in front of the other, my friend? How do you keep doing that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, with the Matterhorn, it's so big. It's such a massive rock. It really has nearly a physical or a spiritual presence. So when you walk up there, and I've been right there, and I've been up on the Matterhorn, you could feel it. And it's just a massive, you start climbing at 10,700 feet. So the air is already quite thin. That's almost 2 miles above sea level. It's usually very windy and cold. So the wind adds a whole element of uncertainty. And then there you are, you're faced, you start off with this big cliff and you just start climbing up. There's some ropes there at first to help you get going. But you made a good point. Within, 15 minutes, you're walking up basically nearly a vertical face, and there's only air behind you. I'll tell you one thing, though. It's not the going up that's the scary part. It's the coming down that's the scary part, because when you're coming down, you're facing out a lot of the way. So you're facing to this, what they call exposure, which is just the sheer drop around you. And while it is a magnificent vista and that's a great scenery, you have to really pay attention. All the accidents happen coming down.
All of them happen coming down.
They all happen coming down. Yeah. In the first group that made it up in 1865, July 1865, led by the English mountaineer Edward Whymper, he took 7 people up, including his pastor from England and one of his friends who barely climbed at all, and they were wearing hobnailed boots. And somehow they found the path to the top, and they got to the top. So he took 7 people. But disaster struck when they came down. Very soon as they were coming down, they slipped, and out of the 7, 4 plummeted to their death right away, including his pastor and his friend who really shouldn't have been there. But there you go. That set the precedent.
But yet, as you say this, you're absolutely beaming. But I see you're beaming because I know you've been up and down, and you've had that high you've gotten from being up and down and conquering the Matterhorn, right?
It is. Well, I have to say, I have not made it to the top of the Matterhorn. Last time I was scheduled to go a few summers ago, it snowed on July 23rd a lot, and they closed the mountain for a few days. And so my window was eliminated. But I do plan on going back this summer and getting to the top. They say that it's really the easiest mountain for a seasoned alpinist to climb. It's easy, but it's the hardest mountain for someone with not a lot of experience, because it's so physically demanding. It's like running almost like 2 marathons going up and down, and you have the nerves and everything. But, it's very doable to all the people listening. With training, practice, getting yourself fit, most fit people can get to the top of the Matterhorn and get that high.
I can't imagine. Just me personally, I'll never do it in my lifetime. I know that, but just doing it. I mean, it's one of those goals, I think, even for an alpinist, I think it's a goal that once you've conquered it, I got to think it's a notch in the belt, right? It's one of those things where you just...
That's almost everyone wants to go up to the Matterhorn and say you've done it, often for time or whatever, but it's something, they call it bagging peaks, and you want to bag that peak.
Wow. Well, when you read the Matterhorn, the book, you can tell the passion is there for this mountain all throughout it. Although, really, the gist of Matterhorn is not necessarily the mountain itself, although the mountain truly is the focus in the book. It is the fulcrum in which the book revolves. I tell you what, let's start to get into a little bit of the book here. And I want to, first of all, before we get into the book itself, I want to talk about why center the Matterhorn into the story of spies? Why marry those two? What was the precipice for you? Why marry those two together?
Well, when you write these books for a living, you're constantly searching and trawling for ideas. Like you could tell, I have a strong interest in mountaineering, a strong interest and love of the Matterhorn. I'm a Swiss citizen. I have a dual citizenship with America and Switzerland. So I was looking for ways to bring the Matterhorn into a really exciting, pedal to the metal spy thriller. And so what evolved is what the book became. It opens on the Matterhorn or ends on the Matterhorn. In between is the chase across Switzerland, across Europe, not only to stop a terrorist act from taking place, a very timely terrorist act, but also it's really a question of betrayal, of friendship, of lost love and found love. With these books, when I try to write them, I want to put a lot of heart in there because it's really the people you care about. And these are not superheroes by any means. They're normal people. And the hero of this book, Matterhorn, his name is Mac Dekker, Mackenzie Dekker. He's in his late 50s. The book opens finding him. He's kind of taken refuge, hiding out in a small Swiss village, and they call it Zinal, the end of an alpine valley. And he's been there for 8 years. He's had to completely pretend basically he's dead because of something you learn about. He's been betrayed. And should he come out, he will put himself and, of course, all his family at risk. So an incident occurs in the book that forces him out of retirement and forces him to look at these choices he's made as a father, as a covert asset of the Central Intelligence Agency, as a man who had found the love of his life and then had to give it up. And all these issues and conflicts will be solved by the end of the book.
The incident at the beginning of the book, I mean, you talk about starting off hot. The one thing you want to do, especially in a spy book or a spy thriller, to me, you want to start off hot. And boy, do you start off hot in this book. You talk about centering around the mountain, and you start off right on the mountain. The thing with me, with this book, first of all, to me, when you start off hot, sometimes it can be disorienting. Tell me what you did in order to make it clearer for people and to paint the scene. Because to me, it was very clear. But tell me what you did in order to, or how you had to make it clear to people that this is how I'm going to establish, and then I'm going to move forward. Do you know what I mean?
I do. When you write these books, this is like a lesson on how you write thrillers. But I often open up at what I call it's the end of Act 3 of another story. Okay. So this book opens up in a hut on the very face of the Matterhorn, at 13,000 feet. You don't really know it. It opens up in a small, dark room. A discussion between a man and a woman. They're clearly spies. There's a handing off of some critical information before they know that they've kind of been found out. They open the door and realize, wow, we are here on the Matterhorn. They've met here at this secret place. But that is the end of another story. That's the end of these other two people's story of how they get there. But it's what's called the inciting incident. And it makes you think, oh my God, it makes you sit on the edge of your seat. Something terrible has happened. Some important information is now at play. Something bad is going to happen. So it sets the clock ticking. There's a bomb somewhere about to go off. The clock is ticking. Now let's go to start the real story and find out, who's going to be looking for this, who's going to be charged with kind of saving the day, and get into the real meat of the book.
Right. And it's that pulse pounding beginning. Although we don't know necessarily exactly who these people are. You fleshed it out enough to where I know these people now. And it's so hard to establish that beginning, yet you nailed it. Every beat, you nailed exactly who they were. We knew enough about these people, enough about the scenario, and enough about what we're doing here that it was enough to set up the rest of the story. And it's a fine art to being able to give just enough information about this person to be able to paint a picture to where the reader can pick it up and go, okay, I can fill in the blanks. I think I can fill in the blanks. And it's a hard art at that, to not lose them, when you're getting there. And you did a brilliant job between that and getting our hero to his peaceful life that he's living in Zinal. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Zinal?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
And in making that transition, because right after that initial scene set, we go right to him where he's living this peaceful life. And you're wondering, how did I go from chaos to peacefulness? And then, okay, I get it. This guy is hiding out. Now I need to find out why he's hiding out. And you take us through that journey. And then we get boom, because it's like, fast beat, slow beat. But now we're finding out why the slow beat is going. But we quickly find out why. It's still a fast pace.
That I want the reader to really get engaged right away. So you spend 10, 15 pages and they're absolutely glued to their seat. And then now you bought some time to really start telling the story. So they've read it. They want to know what's going to go on. So now I have a little leeway to really do some real writing kind of, about people and I'm setting the scene and I'm trying to give hints that this man right away is not who he seems to be. The line where he's tending cows and he picks up a giant canister of milk where another man can't even lift it. It's like, this guy's really strong. Is he really as old as he seems? So I'm dropping clues that should be pretty clear. But then, Tim, you start there. The book does start at, 70 miles an hour. Then we slow down to 20. But right from there, it's always building. From 20, you're getting faster and faster. And then it really never slows down because the book takes place over 3 or 4 days. And it just gets more, the risks keep getting higher and higher. The conflict gets greater and greater. The time is dwindling away, tick tock tick, until you got to get to that last part of the book. And it was just so fun to write this book. I must say, this book came a lot more naturally to me in terms of an easier, simpler story that just almost told itself, because I felt I knew the characters so well. They were so, look at me, I'm 62. This character is like, 57, 58. We have a lot in common. And so I could really kind of write what I know.
So let me ask you this. The main character, the Mac Dekker, who's the former CIA guy, where does he come from? Is this a lot of people say, well, is the character you? But is this character you, or is this somebody
this is not me? I mean, I've had a lot of experience and worked and spoken with a lot of people that have had long careers at the CIA or in Special Forces, Marines, the MARSOC, a Special Operations Command. And so I know what these people are like. They're like you and me. They just have this, like Brian Mills said, Liam Neeson in Taken, he has a special set of skills, and they develop these skills, but they're human beings like you and me. And one of the things that Mac did in the last part of his career was he was been trained as a sniper with the Marines, and he would be helicoptered into Syria to go take out high value targets. And this is something that happens. This is real. And, it's one of these great kind of, I don't know what the word is, contrast. One day you're having a lovely dinner in Tel Aviv, looking out over the Mediterranean, some nice fresh fish. Then you report to the air base the next morning, you helo in, 150 miles up the coast of Syria. You're dropped into a hostile environment. You go in, you take your shot, you get back out, you do your whatever you call it, when you give all the information back and you discuss what happened. Then, you're a couple of weeks off and then you go back in again. So it's a really, really weird way to live. And I think it does a number on a lot of people's heads, as it should. But my point is that these people exist. This is a real occupation. It's not far-fetched. It's not made up. It's, drawn really from the headlines.
Very interesting indeed. I tell you what, let's take our break here, Christopher. When we come back, let's talk about the other side of this. Of course, with Mac, you have your hero. On the flip side of this, you have to have a villain. And the villain is very close to Mac, at least one of the main ones, in that it's someone that Mac knows very well. And, of course, those are the best villains, the ones that are very close to the hero. When we come back, we'll find out who the main villain or the main adversary is to Mac in this, and why Mac has taken such a, let's just say, an egregious turn towards the main villain. And then, of course, there's always a secondary villain in this as well. You've got more than one adversary in this. And, of course, Mac has some friends along the way that he can depend on, although he's been gone for 8 years. Everyone assumes he's dead. We'll find out why Mac is dead. We'll find that as well, why he had to go into hiding, so to speak. The book is Matterhorn. It's a great one, folks. Christopher Reich is the author. It's available now, and it's on bookshelves right now. It's also available at your local bookseller. It's available in the link in the description of this program. Want you to go get a copy of it while we're in the break. Again, Matterhorn by Christopher Reich. Go get it. When we come back, we'll talk about Mac Dekker, his friends and his enemies, right after this on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. A book is Matterhorn. Christopher Reich is the author, the New York Times bestselling author of this book. It's a great book, folks, a great spy thriller. I encourage you to go pick this up. It's a fast read, I'll tell you that much. There's a lot here. It's a meaty book, but I'll tell you, I sat down and I read, I'll tell you, Christopher, between you and I read the first 35 pages. I had to put it down to go do something. I read this in one sitting.
Wow, thank you.
Does that impress you?
That's the work. I love that is the best compliment you can give, Tim. Thank you.
It is a 335-page book. I read it in one sitting. Most people would go, you read 335 pages in one sitting? Well, I read the first 35 pages, then I read 300 pages after that. But I read it in one sitting. That's how enamored and into this book I was, because it moves that fast, and it is that thrilling of a book. Before the break, Christopher, we were talking about the fact that Mac has an enemy, and he has a huge enemy that you find out is quite the devious one, and he's close to Mac. His name is Ilya. Tell us a little bit about Ilya. Who is he?
Well, most of his name is Ilya Ivashka. He's actually American, born Russian, born of Russian parents, but born in the States. He grew up in Maryland and, listening to Bruce Springsteen and the Rolling Stones and, eating In-N-Out or Five Guys or whatever. So he's American and kind of his apple pie. But he and Mac grew up, they were best friends. They were climbing partners in their teens and 20s. They went around the world climbing some of the world's most difficult mountains. And when you climb with someone, when your life is in someone else's hands, you forge a friendship, I think deeper than a friendship. It's a bond, where you could count on someone else to save your life or to keep treat your life as preciously as he treats his own. So they've been through a lot of scrapes together. Then they end up joining the Marines. They both served together. They both then transitioned to the CIA at the end of their 20s. They've been overseas. And then, I don't want to give away, but there is a betrayal at some point where Ilya kind of has enough of playing second fiddle and has to do something very drastic to, I guess, for his own ego, but he has to do something to betray his friend. And so when Mac finds out that Ilya is involved in this quest he has to go after, he's very happy to hopefully go out and wreak some vengeance in the best possible way.
There's another storyline here. There's other allies that run through this book that are, whether Mac knows it or not, helping him. You have another bit of the CIA that are both against him and helping him at the same time. You have a couple of agents that are also after Ilya. Can you tell us about those agents?
Well, I think what's fun when you paint these kind of pictures is that nothing is really black and white, and nothing is as it seems, at least at first glance. So once the world, let's say the intelligence community discovers that Mac Dekker is not dead, that he's back on the scene, a lot of tripwires have been kind of crossed and a lot of alarm bells are sounding. And so, of course, the first person that's going to be looking into this is the CIA station chief in Switzerland. And so he is charged with saying, what's this guy up to? And of course, he has a very interesting story of his own, and he brings in a woman that is involved. Her name is Jane McCall. So there's all this complementary cast of characters that have very interesting subplots and motivations of their own. So, Mac is being chased. He's chasing someone who's being chased, by his own people. So he really has to. I just love that in these books when not only, everyone's after him. The police, his own intelligence agency. In this case, the Russians. So everyone wants Mac Dekker dead, and all he wants to do is find out who is involved with what he's looking after, which is what you learn about in the first 10 pages, which I could actually say is the death of his son. So this is all about a father seeking, finding out who killed my son, and then getting his revenge. Seeing justice done.
Seeing justice done. And that's a powerful thing, to pull a father out of being supposedly dead for 8 years. What else would pull a man out of faking his own death?
Nothing else would pull him out. And you mentioned he has to all of a sudden kind of reinvigorate this network of contacts that he had before, people he'd known, people that helped him, either willingly or not. And the first person he knows is someone that he worked with closely, who was one of his team members in Israel. She's a woman. Her name is Eva Atal, and now she's working in Zurich. She's the consul general of Israel to Zurich. It's kind of a cover posting. But he knows that when it comes to all things communication-wise these days, signals, intelligence, communications, you want to go to the Mossad. They have a group called Unit 8200, which is the world leader in decrypting, in hacking into your phones, into listening in. We work with them hand in glove, the CIA with them. And so Mac knows he has to break into a phone. So he goes, there's only one person I know who could get into this phone and get it done, as fast as possible. And that is Eva Atal, who of course turns out to be his lost love, the woman he had to leave behind to save himself and to save his family.
And I tell you, it's again, I don't want to give away too much about the book, but it's very interesting how this chase happens between Mac and Ilya, back and forth, back and forth. Ilya also has a boss that he has to answer to, because of course he's turned on his cohorts in the U.S., so to speak. So he has to answer to somebody. There's somebody he's answering to. And of course, they're both chasing something that Will is left behind. I can't say what.
Well,
exactly
it's not giving away too much to say that, Ilya has kind of defected to the Russians. He's been bought out by the Russians. And so now he's a Russian asset. Yeah. He's a Russian operative. And the Russians want what's up on the Matterhorn, or what's hidden somewhere, what was lost on the Matterhorn, let's say. And Mac wants it, and the CIA wants it. So everyone is chasing to find this piece of information. The Russians need to find it because they're behind a very nefarious an act that's about to take place and cost, possibly cost tens of thousands of lives. And Mac doesn't know yet what it is, but he does know it's something that's so important that it cost his son his life. Yeah. And so really is a game played at the highest stakes, life and death, not just for our heroes, but for many innocent victims across Europe and the world.
That's right. And man, I tell you, the chase in itself is something that is quite the thrill. There's twists and turns. There's times where you think someone's out of it, then they're back in it. There's amazing parts to this that, again, Christopher, I wish I could shout it to the rooftops. I can't because there's spoilers galore in here. But again, folks, I encourage you to go out and get this book. Let me ask you about this, Christopher. Has there been optioning for this for a movie?
Yes, right. We're talking with someone right now. The goal was to get this on the big screen. So when the copies, what happens is you make these advanced reading copies. They come out about 3 or 4 months ahead of time. So I have my representation with Grandview Management in Los Angeles, and they immediately saw what I saw. So we have a lot of people attached to this right now. So we haven't finalized the terms, but we are negotiating with a major, let's say, very active production company that has the same vision for this as we do.
So when we were talking before the show, you had said something about you had an idea, or not that you had an idea, but you said if you saw this on the big screen, you could see so and so and so and so up on the Matterhorn fighting each other. Who do you see in the role of, like, say, Mac Dekker or Ilya? Who, if you had to cast this, who would you say you'd see in? I would say,
first of all, let me say, Tim, I never ever write with a person's face in mind. Never.
Right.
Having said that, I wrote this thinking about how cinematic it would be to have two famous actors really chasing each other up the Matterhorn, because good climbers can almost run up this Matterhorn, and if they fall, they're dead, but they can go up really fast. And I thought, okay, I could see, George Clooney chasing Brad Pitt up there, or Keanu Reeves chasing Chris Hemsworth. But, they might have to be on the green screen a little bit. But, I definitely picture, George Clooney is exactly my age, very fit. I saw him up there. Who did you see? Who you said you had someone in mind for the villain?
I did. When you kept saying tall and thin, I don't remember what the actor's name is. Do you know who plays the DA on Law and Order SVU?
I do not know that show. I do not.
I wish I could. I wish I had it at my fingertips. But the guy who plays the DA on Law and Order SVU, the only problem is he's got a very Bostonian East Coast accent. But I suppose if he adapted the Russian accent, he'd have to get the blonde hair, obviously, but nothing a dye job couldn't do. But he's very tall, very thin. In the first, I don't know why, but his face kept popping in in his frame kept popping in when I read the book.
Well, I'm glad you had a vision of that. But, movies, you never cast to like a picture type. The best example is The Bourne Identity.
Yes.
Where Matt Damon, who was so spectacular, but I think anybody that read the book, no one would think Matt Damon was going to be Jason Bourne. But that's what actors do. They bring these characters to life in their own way. So I just want people to have their own vision, whoever you might think, these characters are, if you want to put an actor's name on it, but have your own idea of who Mac Dekker is, of who Ilya Ivashka is, of who Jane McCall is. They're all very distinct characters, who end up finding themselves on the Matterhorn.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I had a totally different idea of who Ava was too, and I couldn't tell you. I don't know. To me, she kind of looked like Pam Grier too. I have no idea. I don't know. I get weird visions of who I think people look like in my head, but I know.
Well, I love Pam Grier, but I don't know if she's Israeli.
No, I know she's not Israeli either. Let me see here. I'm looking up the cast of Law and Order SVU to see who that gentleman is. It is Peter Scanavino. He plays.
So I don't know the name, but good. I'm glad that's the guy for you.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was just I don't know why his face kept popping in, but I don't know. It's just I don't know, Christopher. It was weird. It was one of those. He plays Carisi. Yeah, Dominic Carisi is who he plays on the on
If you can play an Italian guy from Boston, he could play a Russian guy who grew up in the States.
That's right.
He
That's
doesn't
right.
really need the accent.
That's right. You got to have range, right? You got to have range. So let me ask you this. Okay, so I know how this book ends. Is there in your mind room for the further adventures of Mac in this book? Or do you feel like you've wrapped Matterhorn sufficiently to where there's no further adventure?
No, this is just the beginning of the Mac Dekker universe. I wrote this. It's a very kind of small universe in the story. It's really takes place in Switzerland. It's one man chasing another. There's some side stories, but I wanted really now to explore in the second book, which has a working title of The Tourists, what happens to Mac when he comes back into the game. The second book opens up a year later. He's been given the all clear by the CIA. Dude, you're good to go. We've forgotten everything we thought you did. We know you didn't. You're clear. You're a free citizen. Just one thing. Keep your old name. Keep the name Robbie Steinhardt you've been living under. Whatever you do, do not contact anybody from the agency. Just pretend you're dead. So Max celebrates. He travels to Paris with Ava, who has survived this book as well. They're both feeling good. And he's about to propose. They go to this beautiful restaurant on the second floor of the Eiffel Tower, the restaurant Jules Verne, named after Jules Verne, who wrote, of course, all the great books, the Around the World 80 Days, all that. Anyway, so he's about to ask her to marry him. He's going to pop the question. And she goes, oh, I have to take a call. So she leaves the table and never comes back. Now, the thing about this restaurant is there's only one way in and one way out. There's a private elevator that goes up and down, and no one's seen her go, but she's disappeared. And he knows something's up, right? And so he then has to start searching for her. And when he does, he, upsets that whole can of worms because first thing he has to do is go talk to some of his old guys in the CIA, and they don't like that. Some of them will help him, but then word spreads. The guy didn't keep his word. We got to go after him. So again, Mac is trying to discover what happened to Ava, the love of his life. She's disappeared, and it's a complicated, complex story drawn exactly from what's going on in the world today, very much with what's happening in the Middle East. But he has a limited amount of time to find her, and this book takes place almost entirely in Paris, and he has to search the city of Paris to find her.
Wow.
Where is she? What is she doing? Why did she disappear? She is a former Mossad agent.
Yeah.
She's connected at the highest level. I'm not sure her disappearance is any kind of accident.
Wow. And any idea on when that comes out?
That will come out next May 1st, 2025.
Really? Wow. Well, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, Christopher. I encourage people to go get Matterhorn. This book is out now, and it's amazing. You're building quite the universe, my friend, with Mac Dekker, and it's something else. It moves. It really moves and shakes, and people will be sitting on the edge of their seat as they read this book. And I really do hope you get this optioned as a movie soon.
Well, it'll get optioned. I just hope it gets made. All of my books get optioned. There's a big difference between they get optioned, they sit there. I am excited about the Take series, which is at Netflix UK with Ed Berger. We're about to start rolling on that. They're finishing the casting. I'm not allowed to say.
Okay.
But that is going forward. We have a great production company involved who's handling, actually the making of the project. But that took 4 years. I mean, that was optioned 4 years ago. Now we're about to start. It was optioned February 2020. We're going to roll cameras in the year 2024. So I hope it goes faster for Matterhorn, but it will happen.
I think it will. I absolutely think it will. This thing rocks and rolls. And like I said, from the beginning to the end, I just saw blockbuster all over it. I see summer blockbuster and a movie that I think people will just absolutely love. I think people will fall in love with the character. And I encourage our audience to order the book right now. Go online, go get this book. And again, we have a link in the description of this program. And you're going to love it. You're going to fall in love with Mac Dekker and his universe. And I think you're going to want to go see the movie when it comes out as well. Christopher Reich, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Tim, thank you for having me, and I'm really glad you enjoyed the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Folks, I don't know how we can lighten it up much more, but we're going to lighten things up. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And we're going to bring in a special co-host. Of course, it's the holiday or the day after. Actually, it's 2 days after the holiday. The day after the holiday as we tape this. I know I'm confusing you even more. To confuse you even further, it's April Fool's Day. So we're bringing on the biggest fool I could find. We're bringing in Uncle Bob. I'm kidding. I had to throw one towards you because I know I'm going to get it back. So there you go. Bob Dennis is on today for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And I'm being polite because it was a holiday and I'm just doing my very best. And if that doesn't work, the heck with it. I'll go back the way I was before.
Well, I just see because I had so many people tell me put some clothes on after you were on last time. And I had to tell them I had clothes on the entire time. So I figure now I have to throw it back at you before I get it this time. So
is that it? It's kind of a interdictive kind of thing, just stopping me. Okay, I appreciate it. I understand that. It's just, you'll get what you get,
Yeah. So
you gotta make it paranoid yet?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I take it you had a good Easter. I'm trying to deflect now.
Yes, well, very, very well. It was always lovely and wonderful. The weather was fine. And so, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Good. And I take it
this is not easy being nice to each other. I just want you to know.
Oh, well, I find it easy. I don't know about you, but I find it
Yeah, but
easy.
you're a nice guy. I'm not. I am just, intrinsically kind of a nasty dude. So.
Oh, that's not true at all. Come on. That's not true.
Yeah, well, anyways. So
here we are. We got a big Dumb Crime Stupid Criminals today. I'll tell you, it's not as raunchy as the last couple of weeks. I think the raunch has taken the week off, which is probably a good thing. We had the nastiest couple of weeks this last couple of weeks. People were just out doing lewd and filthy things, but I think they pulled it back for the holiday.
Yes, that tends to be one of those things. It's a cyclical thing. People just kind of all of a sudden get crazy. Now, and also remember that we just finished up another phase of a full moon.
Oh, okay, that's it. I didn't know what the deal was. I didn't know if they thought maybe, I don't know, Jesus was going to appear and see what they were doing. I don't know. Maybe there was some guilt there.
That's like the card they used to have about Happy Easter. That he's back and he's pissed.
And he's toting a gun. What was the remember the SNL skit from a few years ago where it was they did the what was it, the Quentin Tarantino version of Jesus' Revenge?
I don't recall that, but okay, I can imagine it. It could be blood, guts, and gore, and this time he's serious.
It was more than just tipping the tables. It was him coming in with the machine gun. I'll have to find the bit and send it to you. But it was the Quentin Tarantino version of Jesus' Revenge, so to speak. It was. That
reminds me of there was a movie out that was with Bill Murray many years ago called Scrooged.
Yeah,
It was a Scrooge story in relation to television, and within the context of that movie was a segment where he does a promotion for the Christmas Carol, but it's Santa and he's got machine guns and he's got tanks and he's ready for revenge, and it's like, well, same kind of idea. It was kind of funny, but like I said, it was with a movie within a movie.
I had somebody send me that clip where he's doing the doom and gloom ad, where he's doing the ad for yeah. They sent me that based on my ad for Surfshark last week. They thought I was being a little heavy, but I wasn't. I was talking about the dark web and actually getting hacked. But
they don't in Europe. They don't call it the dark web. They laugh at Americans for calling it the dark web. Because,
really?
Yes, in Europe and in the Middle East, because it is an encrypted system. it is much more difficult for governments to try and tap into your phone calls. Mm-hmm. So they don't call it the dark web. They just, because, there are elements. I mean, there are dark parts of the regular internet web here in America that people can access if they want.
Sure.
But but they don't call it that there. They find that humorous.
Huh.
Anyways, for what it's worth.
Interesting. Well, let's get on with our stories today. We'll start with a good old-fashioned cocaine chase. How does that sound?
Okay.
We'll go to the Caribbean, where a high-speed chase ends with a massive cocaine bust in the I almost said in the European, in the Caribbean. I've got Europe on the brain still. I got to thank Tony for sending this week. Authorities have announced.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Authorities have announced the largest cocaine shipment seizure of the year. They're keeping tabs, evidently, on this. I didn't know that they actually keep tabs on this stuff. But authorities have announced the largest cocaine shipment seizure of the year in the Caribbean Sea off Colombia after military ships and planes chased down a speedboat holding almost 4 tons of the drug in a joint operation between the Colombian Navy, the Colombian Air Force, and the Joint Interagency Task Force of the United States Southern Command. Authorities seized the cocaine, said to be worth more than $113 million.
Well, you figure 8,000 pounds. And not only that's going to be a big boat.
Yeah, it is. They're going to need a bigger boat. I mean, I know I'm using an overused line from a movie, but they seized more than $113 million from the vessel near San Andre Isla. According to the Colombian Navy, the Navy released dramatic aerial video of the chase, during which it said the crew of the suspicious vessel began evasive actions, throwing packages into the water. So that wasn't necessarily all of it they got.
Yeah. There was a story I did a while back about a similar thing where people were trying to smuggle cocaine and they were dumping things overboard, and some of the bales sunk, and the cocaine was actually consumed by sharks.
Oh.
This is, I'm sure that's what they used it for the movie and later on. But this is a true story. And the sharks consumed it. They didn't go into a feeding frenzy or anything. They went into this hyperactivity mode, and it basically just burned them out, and they died.
Oh my God!
I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? But that was probably about a year or two ago that I did that.
So do you think that's the sequel to Cocaine Bear? Is Cocaine Shark?
Probably that would be an even better one, because that would be like do a sequel to Sharknado,
Oh my God! Oh my God!
But we may have come up with something. We could do this movie. I mean, it's cheap. We could do it.
Well, yeah, but you could spin it into even more of a frenzy than just the shark died. I mean, that's the ending, of course, is the shark dies. But I mean, you could go nuts with everything in between.
Everything, yeah. How to get rid of them and everything else, yeah.
Oh, my God. By the way, the chase spanned several miles. The boat, which was covering its cargo in a blue tarp, was finally intercepted. 3 Colombians, 1 Honduran, and 1 Venezuelan who had been on board the speedboat were detained. Subsequent testing confirmed that the boat had been carrying 3,355 kilos of cocaine weighing around 3.7 tons.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that would be, let's see, 6. Yeah, that'd be almost 7,000 pounds right there.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. That is something
crazy.
Else. Let's move on. The next story is quite unusual indeed. A Street View driver. Let me see if I get this straight, because the headline is confusing. So, a Street View driver for Google got into a felony chase with police. The Google car hit 120 miles per hour during the high-speed pursuit in Indiana, of all places.
Well, I mean, they got the speedway.
The Google Street View driver who led police on a 120 mile per hour chase before crashing the car into an Indiana creek has pled guilty to a felony charge for trying to flee from law enforcement. During a court hearing on Monday, last Monday, that is, a week ago Monday, 37-year-old Coleman Ferguson copped to his reckless operation of the camera-equipped vehicle last year. As part of the March 25th plea agreement, Ferguson agreed to a 1-year suspended jail sentence and a restitution of $3,220.97. Where the 97 cents comes in, I have no idea.
Probably tax.
Probably. He will also have to pay court and public defender fees as a result. As part of the plea deal, the conviction of Ferguson, who is scheduled for sentencing on May 20th, will be entered as a lesser Class A misdemeanor. Ferguson appears to have been mapping areas outside of Indianapolis last July 31st when a cop spotted the Google vehicle around 5 p.m. hitting speeds reaching 120 miles per hour. The only thing I'm thinking of is maybe he had to do his job quickly. I mean, I don't know how quickly, but quickly.
There's so many questions involved with that. I mean, why was he going that fast? Was there a reason that he had something going on that he was doing that? And then, can it really record that fast? And then when he turns it into his boss, are they going to have to turn around and like slow it down so that they can actually get something out of it? I mean,
that's a very good question. The automobile had California plates, and cops reported several 360-degree cameras mounted on a tall antenna, which most of them do. The blue car driven by Ferguson was wrapped with a vinyl skin carrying the Google and Street View logos and photos of the Sydney, Australia harbor. It also carried a written recommendation to explore the world at google.com/streetview. With a cop in pursuit, Ferguson refused to stop the Google car. After passing from one county to another, Ferguson lost control of the vehicle, drove through a guardrail, and went airborne before landing in a creek.
He must have had something else going on. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, you're doing your job driving around in the goofy Google car, taking pictures. You know, all of a sudden you take off.
Yeah.
Wow.
But by the way, he was handcuffed and taken into custody after he landed in said creek. The soggy Street View ride was put into police evidence. I have a picture here for you, Bob, to take a look and see exactly how this said.
So he went off the road, and there's his vehicle sitting at the bottom of the creek. And, you know, and you would have thought he'd have looked at his own Google map and said, "Oh, there's a creek there. I don't think I ought to drive that."
Yeah, that's not one of the things that was required to take a picture of, evidently, and especially from close up. During the chase, police noted motorists traveling in the opposite direction had to swerve to avoid colliding head-on with the speeding Street View car. Ferguson stated that he worked for Google and had no reason to run other than being scared.
Okay, that's a good story, and we'll go with it for now, but there's got to be more. I mean, come on, the dude's out there. He's driving. I mean, was it his first day or something? I mean, this is weird.
It is weird. Very weird indeed. He was arrested, by the way, on felony charge of resisting police with a vehicle and booked into the Henry County Jail. He spent about 2 weeks before posting a $10,000 bond. $10,000 bond is not a lot of money.
It depends. Is it your money? It might be a lot. If it's his money, it might be nothing to you.
True, but you've got to come up with 10%. I suppose if you're working for Google, I mean, they're probably not paying a lot.
Yeah, they're saying, we want our car back and you're paying for the damages.
Yeah.
But you would have think that they also would have done like a background check on his driving record.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's something that would have been a flag in that, you know, I mean.
Wait a minute. Here we go. Here's the hitch in the get along. Ferguson, working as a Google contractor, came to operate a Street View car. Or it's unclear how he did because he does have a record. Ferguson had a rap sheet that included 2 separate convictions for driving with a suspended license and a third conviction for driving with expired plates. He recently worked in the facilities department of an Indiana university. So, yeah, he had some convictions there.
Here's the deal. Right? He had those, and he worked at Indiana University. If I was to go out and try to get a legitimate job somewhere at Indiana University or someplace else, Google, you can bet they would have done like 18 different background checks on me and I wouldn't have gotten the job. This guy waltzes in and they're like, yeah, sure, take the car out, make sure you get it washed. You know, put some gas in it when you're done.
Well, evidently he got away with it for a little bit until he put it in the creek.
It's just, shame on everybody.
That's right. You're all guilty in this case. That's for sure. Yep. Let's move on. This one's an interesting one. You know, you've heard the story. You would have got away with it if you would have just laid low for a while. Mm-hmm. Well, these 3 men in Philly would have got away with it if they wouldn't have flossed around with their cash. That's the long and short of it.
That's how you get caught.
That's right. 3 Philly men allegedly robbed a Chester County home and took photos flaunting their stolen cash. Guys, you would have got away with it if you just wouldn't have took photos. That's all.
Should have just sat cool for a while. Yeah.
That's right. 3 men from Philadelphia were arrested this week on charges of breaking into the home of a Chester County couple in January and robbing them at gunpoint, according to prosecutors. During the investigation, authorities allegedly found photos of the men taken while committing the crime, including pictures of them showing off wads of stolen cash.
There was a thing on Saturday Night Live where they did a skit like that, where they 2 people break into the bank. They come in, it's a man and a woman. No, it's 2 guys come, they break in, and there's a man and a woman in there, and the man and the woman are really weird. But they're like, all of a sudden, it's like some app sends a message saying, it's time for a real moment. And everybody's supposed to pull their phone out during the bank robbery and show what's going on. And of course, one guy's like, no, you can't do that. And the other guy's, oh yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. Let's show us, we can do it. It's like, okay, let's find new ways to be dumb.
It's true. I remember that skit, by the way. The Chester County District Attorney's Office and the Easttown Township Police Department announced charges Wednesday against 23-year-old Julio Mendez, 20-year-old Luis Armstrong, and 21-year-old Axel Reich. Investigators described the January 8th break-in as one of the greatest nightmares imaginable. Boy, you got to go a long way for police to describe it as.
Wow. That's, I would have thought, must be a pretty boring area if that's the biggest thing that's happened. I mean, really?
Well, let's find out why. I don't know why it'd be one of the biggest nightmares imaginable. Around 4:25 a.m., Easttown Township Police were called to a home on South Leopard Road in the Berwyn section of the township for a report on an armed robbery. The homeowners said 3 masked men had entered the house around 2 a.m. 2 of the suspects were armed with handguns, and the third had an assault rifle. The 3 men allegedly told the homeowners that they had taken their daughter hostage and would kill the couple if they didn't give up their cash and other valuables. The husband told the men that his money was located at the business. He and his wife were then blindfolded and tied up, and the 3 men drove them to the business in their Mercedes, the police said. At the business, the husband gave the men 3 envelopes containing a total of $19,500 in cash. So far, so good, right?
Well, okay, sure. I mean, I've got questions, but go ahead.
Yeah. The defendants then allegedly drove the couple back to their home and tore through the house to find more valuables. They then took around another $8,000 in cash, $2,000 worth of jewelry, 3 firearms, designer clothing, and a pair of Apple AirPods, according to police. When the robbers left the home, they then allegedly left the couple tied up in the attic and stole the Mercedes. Well, now they're getting away with a lot. They got a whole haul.
Yeah, there are so many things wrong with that. I mean, okay. But they took him to his business. He had no security system in place that he couldn't fake trigger that and have somebody come and rescue him. He doesn't have a security system in his house. He's driving a Mercedes, dude. He put all his money in his car.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. There's a lot of things he didn't do right. You're right. Investigators initially traced a Mercedes back to Philadelphia by piecing together information from automated license plate readers, which scan plates and help authorities track down vehicles involved in crimes. Police also used Apple's Find My app in order to pick up the location of the stolen headphones, so they weren't too smart about a lot of things here. On January 10th, footage from street cameras showed Mendoza parking the Mercedes on the 400 block on East Ontario Street. Mendoza then allegedly walked to a home on nearby Weymouth Street. When police raided the home on January 24th, they allegedly found Mendoza and Reyes on the property and located more than $13,000 in cash. Police said they also found jewelry, clothing, and a handbag that had been stolen from the home. Investigators later learned that Mendoza and Reyes are cousins. Text messages found on their phones showed they had planned the robbery and appeared to know details about the property at Easttown Township. A photo found on one of the phones showed that one of the masked robbers sitting on top of the Mercedes with cash fanned out in his hands was on one of the phones. Detectives identified Mendoza and Reich using fingerprints from the Mercedes, so they didn't wear gloves. And they alleged that Armstrong was recruited by Mendoza to help carry out the robbery. All three defendants are charged with multiple counts of felony robbery, burglary, theft, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, false imprisonment, terroristic threats, and firearm offenses, among other crimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, they left little breadcrumbs all over the place in that deal.
Yeah. Breadcrumbs. They left whole loaves of bread.
They did. This one is more than just dumb. It's ironic in this case. I don't give an F is what a produce wholesaler said as he was busted for hiring a hitman at a discount price, Bob, of $5,000. Ironic, for a murder of his business rival. He wasn't going to pay full price. This, according to the feds. This story,
and that whole half price off deal, you got to always keep, buyer beware is what I'm saying.
It wouldn't have surprised me if he had a coupon. That's for sure. A produce wholesaler in South Florida, yes, folks, we're going to Florida on this deal, allegedly hired a hitman to take out a business rival, but the killer was actually a federal agent. Wah, wah. According to a criminal complaint, a confidential informant in February approached the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, always a bad thing, to say that Mikram Kashman asked if they would kill a business rival. Always bad form to ask the ATF to kill your business rival.
Yeah, it's just not going to get very far on that.
No. The informant allegedly told Kashman they wouldn't do it, but knew someone who would. Instead, the informant went to the feds. The informant and an undercover ATF agent met with Kashman on February 29th at a parking lot in the city of Plantation, according to documents. Kashman, wearing a polo shirt with a logo for Garden Fresh Produce, LLC, got into the car with two others. The agent said he heard Kashman had a problem, that's in quotes. Kashman allegedly described it as a, quote, big problem, saying his intended target had taken over $1 million in a business worth $3 million from him. The business rival had put Kashman and his family, quote unquote, in the streets, causing him to lose his house. Kashman told the agent he was willing to do whatever had to be done and wanted something easy like an injection, according to investigators.
That's extra. That's a la carte. You got to pay separate for that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you want to get rid of your business rival, but you want to do it easy, like an injection. Who comes up with that?
And I don't want to pay a lot either. I mean, this guy his whole concept of what he's doing is just not right. I mean, and then that brings us back to that thing. If you want to do something right, do it yourself.
Yeah, right. I mean, wouldn't you say something like, "Well, make it look like a burglary, or make it look, like a carjacking, or make it look like something where you're not even connected"?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah,
but that's why they are dumb. Right.
When the undercover agent asked Kashman directly if he wanted the rival dead, he affirmed and said, "I don't give a F." The complaint said. The agent told Kashman that the price was usually between $5,000 and $10,000. Kashman allegedly said he would offer $5,000 because he had already talked to people who would do it for that price. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're haggling now. We're bargaining.
So he's competitive. I'm taking bids on a hit. It's like it's not going to work.
I was watching, Law and Order SVU, where they had the scenario where you could go online and you could go to a website where they'd take bids. And they said that was based on a true story, that there's actually a website out there. Again, I'll use the term dark web, which is what they used on the episode, that you could go on the dark web, you could bid out a hit. So I'm wondering if this guy was trying to get one over on the quote unquote hitmen. Like, oh, yeah, I've been taking bids on this website, and they'll do it for $5. Yeah. You think you'll do it for $3?
Well, I've got this quote here, and, this $5 is too much.
Like he's shopping for insurance.
Yeah. Say, a side note about the dark. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Side note about the dark web, you know that what they are calling the dark web was actually invented by the United States government. And it was actually done for secrecy purposes, if I remember right, by the United States Navy, for the transmissions of coded information. And, it's like anything, like the original internet was used for communications between university schools. The one with the dark web was actually created for purposes of military communications that were encrypted. And then said, you know what, we could probably market this and make some money and get out there, So anyways, just a side note. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of blathering and going on.
No,
this is the moment when you should regret having me on.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, now you can get hitmen and drugs and all kinds of fun things on it.
I thought you had Craigslist for that. What do I know?
No, you don't get that stuff on. That's how you get busted, trying to find it on Craigslist.
Is that right? Well, so
yeah.
I'll tell my app.
Yeah, don't try and get that stuff on Craigslist, Bob. It'll end horribly.
I was looking for a hit for a podcaster. Do you know where I find that?
Oh, no. I have no idea. I wouldn't tell you if I did. So real quickly, the agent told Koshman that he would need a photograph, name, address, daily routine, any additional information about the target. If you're getting a hitman for $5,000, you probably should stop.
Yeah. Well, maybe that him doing the legwork part of it was part of the discount. It's, well, I'll do it for you, but you're going to have to do some things for me.
I somehow don't think $5,000 is going to be enough to get the job done. That should be a clue right there. Koshman, by the way, had to fork over $2,500 in cash to get the deal started. Mm-hmm. That was the other thing too. When you get the, I'll need half up front, so give me the $2,500 right away. So when you get the layaway deal.
Layaway, literally, we're going to lay them away. I mean, for $2,500 and then $2,500 later, you're going to get a kid with a slingshot. I mean.
Yeah, that should be the deal right there. Authorities, by the way, later arrested Koshman and took him to Broward County Jail, where he's being held without bond. So $5,000 ain't going to get it done, kids. That's just all there is to it. So keep that in mind.
There you are. Buyer beware once again.
Yeah. Our next story is back in Florida. A man shows up at a St. Petersburg barber shop with a gunshot wound. I know healthcare is getting worse in our country, but the barber shop ain't where you get your bullet wounds patched up.
No, not normally. No, I mean,
Yeah. We go to Tampa, where a man showed up Friday afternoon at a barber shop in St. Petersburg with a gunshot wound. The man drove himself to a barber shop along 18th Avenue South and asking for help after being shot at another location. He was taken to a hospital and expected to be okay. They said that's where you go to get the gunshot wound taken care of. The hospital. Yeah, the hospital.
The hospital. You know that the original barber poles, like, you would see them and they would have the red, the blue, and the white. They were actually color-coded like that because at one point in time, many, many years ago, I'm talking like 100 years ago, you actually did go to a barber when you needed to be stitched up, sewed up, or whatever, that he was actually, the red color was actually showing that that person was capable of being a surgeon. True. This is true. You can look it up.
Seriously?
Seriously. That's 100% honest to goodness true.
Huh.
You don't believe me?
I'm not saying I don't believe you. Officers are working to learn where the shooting happened in this deal. No one's been taken into custody. They also aren't taking other suspects to the barber to get them stitched up either, Bob. That's the deal.
Well, I mean, there are barbers and then there are barbers.
I guess.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to read this for you. The bloody bandages associated with bloodletting inspired the red and white stripes, while the barber pole itself symbolizes an instrument that people gripped onto during the procedure to encourage blood flow. Barbers would place the pole outside their barber shop to let customers know that they were open and ready for business.
Wow.
So, there you have it.
You learn something new every day.
See that? You have the old geezer on the show, and every once in a while he comes up with a nugget.
Look at that. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, maybe you got something for this one. You ready for this?
Sure.
A pregnant woman is shot in an alleged shoplifting.
I didn't do it. I wasn't there. I was nowhere near them at the time. I'm old. I don't do that kind of thing,
Okay. All right. I didn't say
By
it was
the way,
you.
Jim?
Yeah.
by the way, Tim, put your clothes on.
They're on. They're firmly on. I'm wearing a hoodie and I'm wearing shorts. I mean, you can't prove the shorts thing. It's under the desk, but I'm just saying I'm wearing shorts.
I'm not looking at the desk. I'm just saying.
All right. Pregnant woman, and I didn't do the pregnant woman either. The pregnant woman is shot in an alleged shoplifting, and she sues Walgreens as a result. Now, there's a reason, Bob, why employees aren't doing their own security at Walgreens and why they don't detain anybody at Walgreens anymore, or any other store for that matter. There's a reason why when you do shoplifting, they don't try to hold you there. And this is why. Because things happen where lawsuits happen. Travansha L. Ferguson was 24 years old and 7 months pregnant in April of 2023 when a Walgreens team leader who thought she was shoplifting followed her to her car and shot her several times.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that's a little extreme for shoplifting.
Really?
Even if she did, but she claims she didn't. In the civil lawsuit that the Tennessee mother filed against the pharmacy chain, she claims that she and a friend were followed from a Nashville drugstore by 21-year-old, I believe this is Materius Boyd, an employee team leader who suspected them of shoplifting. Lawyers for Ferguson claim that Walgreen Company and an anonymous manager were negligent in failing to properly train and supervise Boyd. Boyd, however, is not named as a defendant in the lawsuit. According to a statement by the Metropolitan Nashville Police following the incident, Boyd was notified by another employee that 2 women were stealing items from the store. Boyd told detectives that he began to follow and record the women after he allegedly saw them place items into a cart and then into a bag, according to the statement. Ferguson's attorneys are claiming that Boyd had never identified himself as a Walgreens employee before aggressively confronting their client and her friend about alleged stolen items. Once Ferguson and her friend got into their car, she sprayed mace in Boyd's direction out of fear, that according to the document, and that prompted Boyd to shoot Ferguson about 7 times.
Wow.
7 times.
Shot a pregnant woman 7 times.
Yes.
For minor theft.
Minor theft. Boyd told detectives that he didn't know if the women were armed and that he too was in fear, that according to a news release, Ferguson's friend drove away and Boyd went back to the store to call 911. No criminal charges were filed against Boyd, surprisingly, who no longer works at the store, according to the... Yeah, no, go figure.
Lost his job.
Yeah. According to the news release, Ferguson's friend took her to the hospital where Ferguson was initially listed in critical but stable condition. Ferguson's baby was delivered prematurely by C-section and had a heart defect. The infant fought for his life for weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit. According to the lawsuit, the baby is now reportedly at increased risk of long-term intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Wow.
Yeah. The attorneys also allege that as a result of the shooting, Ferguson sustained permanent injuries that require her to wear a colostomy bag to survive. Yeah. Ferguson, and this people is why you don't give employees, regular employees, non-trained security guns to defend stores.
Well, and this guy supposedly was the team leader, so he was the best out of the group that was there at the time. Oh boy, I'm just not saying much for the rest.
Yeah. In a statement shared with Huffington Post on Wednesday, L. Chris Stewart, an attorney representing Ferguson, said the defendant will never fully recover from the shooting and has long-term health issues that she is forced to deal with every day. We intend to hold Walgreens accountable for the egregious actions of their employee, who was a team leader at that location, Stewart said. Following someone to the parking lot and shooting them 7 times for allegedly shoplifting is outrageous conduct that cannot be tolerated by corporations around the country. Walgreens Company has declined to comment on that litigation. Now, notice the words I said here, people. Non-trained employees, non-trained security employees. Those are the words I say, non-trained security employees. He was not a trained security employee.
Well, here's the deal, okay? So they're in the store. The store is obviously going to have cameras, okay? Or maybe not in every portion of the store, but at some point in time, they're going to pick up video of them filching something and putting it in a bag or whatever. And then they go out to their car in the parking lot. there are going to be cameras in the parking lot.
Right.
So Walgreens, the company, all they'd have to do is supply that video to the investigating law enforcement. They would, draw up that video and see what the license plate was on that car or vehicle, and, situation taken care of.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's no need to go out to the parking lot with any firearm whatsoever. Or
Maybe
even
I should be applying to Walgreens for a security position.
There you go.
I could,
well,
I'm not good with the gun.
And really no reason to even confront them more than that. I mean, you could try to hold them, but really there's not much you can do. Even Walgreens security now will tell you there's not much you can do if you try to hold them and they don't want to be held. Am I right about that?
Well, if theft law is one of those kind of deals where, depending on where they're at, what they have in their possession, and where they have transferred from the point at which they have left the store and beginning to go outside of the store, and where you could actually stop them. There are so many things involved with that. That's why the cameras are the back source on that. I mean, they could probably say, excuse me, is there something you'd like to pay for? Is there something there? And they'd say, well, no, I don't want to pay for this. There are so many other legal possibilities that the need to try and stop somebody is just really not necessary. I mean, you're going to get found. There's nowhere in the world you can go today where you do something illegal where there isn't a camera somewhere that's going to catch you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Let's move on. We'll go to St. Augustine Beach, where police have arrested a woman who threatened her partner with a knife over, of all things, Bob, a dirty litter box.
A dirty litter box?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was a cat fight. That's what you're saying.
Yes, it was a cat fight. You got it. I don't know why. What things trigger off what people over what things? I don't know. The funniest things make me question why certain people don't have anger management classes automatically assigned to them. Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Yeah. A domestic dispute in St. Augustine Beach has culminated in the arrest of 23-year-old, I believe this is Eliana Espel Hernandez, who stands accused of aggravated domestic battery, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, domestic, and false imprisonment after allegedly wielding a knife during an argument over cleaning a litter box. Drawing a knife about a litter box.
It's your turn to clean the litter box.
And if not, I'm going to knife you.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you. Yeah, not good.
According to reports from the St. Augustine Beach Police Department, conflicting narratives emerged from both parties involved in the incident, which occurred around, of course, 1:04 a.m. on March 25th. This happened in the early hours of March 25th. You think alcohol's involved?
Well, or something, lack of sleep maybe.
Yeah.
You never know.
Eliana Espel Hernandez claims she and 21-year-old Robert Giroux, who had been in an intimate dating relationship and cohabitating for nearly 2 years, engaged in a heated disagreement when Giroux requested help cleaning the litter box in their living room. Also, all he wanted was help, so he's going to get shanked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Hernandez alleged that the confrontation escalated, resulting in her being struck she got hit first, resulting in her being struck multiple times and subsequently resulting to grabbing a kitchen knife. I got ahead of myself. To grabbing a kitchen knife and instructing Giroux to leave, eventually prompting her to call 911. However, discrepancies emerged in Hernandez's account as she was unable to provide specific details regarding the alleged assault, and her story changed several times during police questioning. Contrastingly, Giroux recounted a different sequence of events, claiming that upon his return home, he requested Hernandez's help with household chores. Giroux stated that Hernandez responded aggressively, insisting he had not asked properly, which led him to bringing the litter box into the bedroom for her to clean. Giroux further alleged that Hernandez dumped the litter box contents in the hallway and on his clothing walking into the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah. When asking,
And I'll bet that pot hadn't been cleaned in quite some time.
That's right. When asking Hernandez to clean up the mess, Hernandez reportedly grabbed a kitchen knife and stated, "You clean it or I'll kill you."
Okay.
Ooh. Hernandez's phone was reportedly confiscated as he tried to film the incident. Guru told police that he began to clean up the mess due to the reported threats and took a shower before getting dressed to go surfing. To go surfing at 1 a.m. in the morning?
Take a shower before you go?
Yeah. Something doesn't sound right there. When attempting to leave, Hernandez grabbed the knife again, saying he was not allowed. Guru stated that she then began to stab the sliding door with the knife while she repeatedly yelled at him. When stating that he was going to call the cops, Hernandez reportedly replied, "No, you are not. If you call the cops, I'm going to effing kill you," while holding the knife. The altercation reportedly escalated further, with Guru claiming that Hernandez threw a frying pan at him, causing injury to his arm. The victim then stated that he went to Hernandez, took the knife from her, and left the building to call 911. Following an investigation revealing inconsistencies in Hernandez's narrative and physical evidence consistent with Guru's testimony, Hernandez was apprehended and transported to the St. Johns County Jail without further incident. According to the report, Guru told police past accounts of her assaulting him, purportedly due to her mental health issues, were at play. The case has since been closed, with the St. Augustine Beach Police Department submitting relevant evidence, including audio recorded statements, a frying pan, and a knife for further scrutiny.
Okay. I think that the guy who was trying to hire the hitman should probably hire one of these people, because I think they got a better shot of getting this thing done.
Now, here's the deal. Okay, so here's see if I can get a picture of this woman in here. Here's what this...
Oh, she's kind of pretty.
Yeah, I mean, she looks like a diminutive little girl, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine that she's probably what? She looks like she's probably all of maybe 98 pounds?
Yeah, at the most. She's not very, just very pretty. Kind of a small, not what you'd call mousy, long hair, parted semi down the middle. Just a very, average looking, young lady.
Yeah. So, I mean, can you imagine that she's the Tasmanian devil?
Well, I can believe that of a lot of women I know, but I mean, don't know that she would necessarily be one of them, but.
No, I mean, to think that she's wielding a knife, a frying pan, and dumping a full kitty litter box onto your clothes is you would think a stretch.
Do they have a picture of him? I mean, is he some little whippy guy or something that he's, tiny and no picture of him?
Just a picture of her. Yeah, just the booking.
Well,
photo.
In fairness to her side of the story, okay, there's one thing that, and this is true, that women need to be careful of when it comes to emptying kitty litter boxes, is that kitty litter boxes are the site for the primary bacterialization of something called a disease that women can get called toxoplasmosis. It's a viral-borne disease from breathing in the spores from cat feces, and can affect women primarily, is the major person, and women who are pregnant should especially be careful about that. This is your public service announcement from Darkness Radio.
There you go.
I'm sorry. You see all the worthless things that are in my mind, and you still have me back on here? There's something wrong with you. That's what I'm saying is,
You have a lifetime of it, evidently, to share with us.
A lifetime of something going on. So, oh well. Wow.
We move on. This story is bizarre, about as bizarre as you can get. And not only is it, we're moving on to our not safe for work part of the program. We've got 2 stories left here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. This story, Bob, I don't know how to describe it other than it had to be deeply disturbing. And on top of it, the man was robbed. A man sues the Marriott Corporation for $160 million, saying he woke up to a stranger sexually assaulting him.
I'm just going to let it go. Not going to say anything. This is where I would get in trouble. Not going to say it. Okay.
Yeah. No, well, let me read you.
Somebody he doesn't even know comes in,
Let me read you the story first before you cast aspersions.
I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just, one curious.
A Mississippi man said he was staying in a room at the Marriott on West Trade Street in uptown Charlotte in April of 2022 when he woke up to a stranger performing a sex act on him. The victim is now suing Marriott for $160 million, while the suspect, Jermaine Lamont P., faces criminal charges. The lawsuit...
This isn't the guy that was the manager of the hotel, is it?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The lawsuit states the self-closing and self-locking door to his room was not functioning properly, and the door did not properly latch or lock. The victim said when he woke up to P sexually assaulting him, he howled in terror and lashed out to punch P, who allegedly grabbed the victim's wallet and phone and took off. The victim argues that the hotel did not have adequate security measures, claiming that the suspect got in through an unlocked door in the parking garage and was never stopped, according to the lawsuit. That wasn't the first or latest run-in with the law that P has had. Channel 9 found 6 mugshots of him in Mecklenburg County, charged with other crimes, including going armed to the terror of the people, assaulting a campus police officer, and more. Police were called to the Marriott 85 times in 3 years, according to a 911 catalog.
Wow.
That's a lot.
85 times in how long?
3 years.
Holy smokes.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but aren't there travel ratings on different websites where you can look to see if this place is even secure?
I would think so. I mean, I've done that in the past to make sure something is, a good hotel and a good place. And,
you would think this place would have a horrible rating.
Or that it would be known to people. Although if he's just like passing through, that's one thing. But even so, I mean, you can look it up on the internet. You can look it up on your phone and find out whether it's... And also, if you pull up and the place looks like a dump, you're not going to go in.
Right.
I mean, even if it is a Marriott, I mean,
The 85 times include assaults, a human trafficking call, and others.
Whew.
These aren't light incidents that happen at the Marriott.
Wild.
Channel 9, by the way, is waiting on a response from the Marriott. I don't know what they think they're going to get from him. Like, oh, no, nothing ever happened.
Well, he was part of our special services class. And, he upgraded. He paid the $5.
It's part of our special turn down service. By the way, you never get your wallet back. According to court records, P is awaiting trial for burglary and the sexual offenses. So they did catch him. I don't know. If you're the Marriott, obviously they need a security officer. There's an opening. But
sometimes mistakes happen with hotels. Years ago, I was traveling from Connecticut back to the Midwest here, and I stayed at a hotel in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in, and I was moving furniture, and I was moving my entire life back to the Midwest. And I had a U-Haul truck, and they wanted to put me on a second floor room. And I was like, you know what? I've got my U-Haul truck here. I've also got my dog, which I will keep in my car because they're not allowed in the hotel, and I will check. It'll be fine. But I would like to have a first floor room. So they switched me from the second floor to the first floor, and I was able to look out my window and make sure the dog was fine and the truck was fine. And we went to bed. In the middle of the night, the door, I always put the chain on. In the middle of the night, the door opens. And this guy who is obviously somewhat intoxicated is like, I can't get in. And you hear a woman's voice with it. I'm thinking, oh, jeez. And I'm like, hello, can I help you? What's going on? And he's like, this is my room. I said, I'm sorry, but we're occupying this room tonight. Thank you. And, maybe you should check with the front office. And the guy left. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I thought, that was weird. Maybe just some mistake. The next morning, I get up. And I'm going to go out. It's only a couple hours later. I'm going to go out and check on my dog and take her for a walk and give her some water and food. And, it was a cool evening, so it wasn't like, it was anything bad for her. I walk out, and there are like 6 SWAT cars outside.
Whoa.
And I'm looking around, thinking, what the heck? And I check on my dog, and she's fine. And the guys are like watching me, and they're looking at me, and I'm thinking, I didn't do anything. I'm just driving through. And I go to the front desk office, and there are all kinds of cops in there. I'm like, what is going on? And I asked the guy, what's going on? And then the cop comes up to me and says, were you in room, I don't know, 123 or whatever it was? I said, yes, I was, sir. Were you in there all night? Yes, sir, I was. I was there. I'm moving my family, and we're coming back to the Midwest. Well, it turns out that they had secretly set up a trap for this guy who was a known criminal and a known felon and a guy who they were desperately trying to capture. And when I went to the front desk and asked if they could change my room number from what I was in, they gave me the room that was supposed to be set aside for the guy that they were trying to trap. But they had never told anybody in the hotel that they were reserving this room for the purposes of trapping this guy.
Oh, wow.
So they thought that I was the guy. Never mind, I'm like 3 feet tall and 500 pounds, and the guy they're looking for is like 6'7" and 25 pounds. There's an obvious difference between us. So I showed them my ID and told them who I was in the truck, and there's the dog, and there's the family, and we're all just, passing through. Mm-hmm. And so then we read about it the next day in the paper, of course, and heard about it on the news. So that was just very bizarre. So these whole hotel things where people, enter or something, it happens. Always make sure you put the little lever thing that flips over the lock or the chain or something. Or if you can't have that, a chair or something wedged up against the knob of the door to be safe when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I always put that little bar in there and make sure that my room is secure, because you never know. I've had people try to come into the room too before that don't belong in that room, but it's always almost always an honest mistake, like someone has the wrong room or whatever. But yeah, it's scary.
So anyways, so this guy, going, of course, this guy goes to his room and he's not able to lock the door. The thing does. Wouldn't you think he would go to the front desk and say, I'm not comfortable in this room. I'd like something different because I can't lock the door.
Yeah, right. I mean,
the Marriott, they should have, another room or a maintenance guy or even tell them, all right, put the chair there and we'll give you a discount and you can check out in the morning.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
There should have been something.
Yeah, there's no way I would sleep in a room that wasn't secure.
Yeah, it's just, especially traveling.
Yeah.
I also had one where I traveled to a hotel because I had to travel a lot at one point in time. Mm-hmm. And I was in Ohio somewhere. I don't recall where. It would have had to have been on Interstate, was it 90 or 95, whatever it is. Anyways, and I pulled over. And I'd been traveling a long time. And I was just exhausted. And I saw this sign saying that the hotel had, rooms for like $10 a night. Remember, this is like back in the 1980s, mm-hmm. early 80s. Mm-hmm. And it was the hotel. I don't recall the name of it anymore, but they had a little bear with a sleepy cap on walking, I don't know what the name of the guy, we don't have to say the name, but anyways, so I go there, it's late, I see the guy, and he says, yeah, it'll be $10. I gave him $10. And I had my car filled with stuff. And I went into the hotel room, which was on the second floor. It was a 2-story building. And I took a quick shower, and I was going to go to sleep. I opened up the bed, and there was bugs in there.
Oh.
I was like, oh, shit, I'm not going to stay. I'm sorry, I didn't say that word.
That's all right.
I'm not going to stay there. So I'm getting up, and I hear a noise. And I walk over, and I kind of peek out the curtain of the window, and a guy pulls up in a van next to my car. And he's like trying to handle and trying to get into the car. And me being dumb and young at the time, I opened the door and said, yeah, my car is locked. I don't think you can get into it right now. And the guy's like, whoa, and jumps back in this big red van and tears out of the parking lot. I'm thinking the guy at the front desk called somebody and said, yeah, I got a dude here. He's dumber than heck. And he's got a car full of stuff. Because, and now that's just true hotel things with me. And I'm generally pretty careful. Well, anyways, I packed everything up. I didn't care. Keep the $10. And I went on to the next major exit, which was like maybe 60 miles away, and stayed at a more reputable hotel.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah. Wow.
Sometimes it's worth the price just to pay a little more and get that security edge.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Wow. Oh, the bugs alone just.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah. Hopefully you didn't get any in your luggage.
Well, it's been a lot of years, and I seem to be okay. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not okay. I just think I am.
Oh, I think you are. That's for sure.
I mean, maybe you're the one that needs to have your head examined.
Well, it could be, yeah. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah. I think you're right on that. That's for sure.
Maybe we both do. Maybe we get a discount.
Oh, yeah, we could. Yeah, we could probably
Bring
get
the whole family in, and we'll just have them all put underneath the microscope.
We'll get a bulk discount, I'm sure. Yeah.
We got a lot of family members that'll fit in, let me tell you.
That's for sure. Maybe they'll give us a holiday discount too. I mean, we can try and qualify for as many discounts as we can get. Our final story here today, Bob, on the big program, has to do with, we're revisiting a little bit because there's a woman who's actually got now charged in a previous story, thank God. It's a little complicated. She's gotten 15 months now in prison for a naked rampage in a public pleasure session. I don't know what it is about people who feel like they need to share their pleasure with the world, but this woman evidently has felt like she needs to.
You should talk. You sitting there naked, buck naked.
I am not.
Me this story?
I am properly clothed for the program. You should see this is
coming in. Is that Timothy? Is that you? I want to ask you a question. Is that a dimple?
This is why we're going to video eventually because people can't trust.
Then you'll be picked up for like pornography or something.
No. See, I'm properly clothed for the program. In fact, I'm quite stylish today. I'll tell you that. We're going to Florida, where a Florida woman has begun serving.
Wearing just a scarf and nothing else is not stylish. Okay, that's just yes, it's a nice scarf, but I'm telling you, dude, put the clothes on.
I'll have Chip Coffey has made a living off of just wearing scarves. I mean, not just wearing scarves. He's got other stuff on, but just saying.
You seem to be pretty well informed about all this.
Just saying. A Florida woman has begun serving a prison sentence for a recent naked rampage at a convenience store that includes a masturbation session conducted in front of police. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it in front of the police.
Wow.
Well,
I have so many things I could say, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to let that go.
Well, rumor has it they're big tippers.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have the right to an attorney. But let's finish up here first.
35-year-old Celia Barrett, who evidently needs the attention, pleaded guilty earlier this month to a variety of criminal charges stemming from her unclothed antics at a racetrack convenience store in late January. Barrett was sentenced to 15 months in state prison after copping to aggravated assault, a felony, and 4 misdemeanors. Is that all? Including exposure of sexual organs and disorderly intoxication. Following her sentencing, Barrett was transferred on March 20th from the Pinellas County Jail to custody of the Florida Department of Corrections. Alleged by police, a drunken Barrett threatened workers at a racetrack in St. Petersburg with a sharp-edged vegetable peeler. By the way, if you're going to hold up a racetrack, you want to do it with a vegetable peeler.
Yeah, with the vegetable peeler, yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the Propel, the Vegematic. That's not going to work.
No.
It's like the machine gun level of a peeler, but it doesn't work.
You want to go simple on the bit.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned. Yeah. And she destroyed merchandise. Also, the defendant, prior to being taken into custody, began masturbating in front of deputies while inside the store. If you're going to go with a show. In addition to the prison term, Barrett, who has previously served time for battery and marijuana possession, was ordered to pay fines, fees, and court costs totaling around $1,100. Let me show you a picture of Ms. Barrett here.
I don't know if I want to see a picture of this.
No, not like that. Not from
the... I got you sitting here this way.
I don't want to see this. Not from the store. I mean, she's not at the store. This is her booking photo.
Yeah, but still. But okay, here's one other thing. I want you. Okay, look at the clothes she has on right now. That looks like your standard issue. Like hospital clothing they give you when you're going in someplace. That doesn't look like personal clothing.
Yeah, those are the county blues right there that she's in. Yeah. So. Yep, she's properly clothed, but I can't see her hands. It's I'll give myself one of these.
You are so sick. You are a sick man. You need therapy and clothes.
Well, she is in front of authorities. She seems to like giving authorities a show. I mean. I don't know.
People have authority issues.
That's right. So I'm just saying. So that's that. That's it, and that's that. That's Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals for today. With that, we can continue on the crime vein. You, of course, have a new podcast out there. Let's tell the people about it.
Oh, it's the one that I deal with. They're professional criminals. I have one called Mob and Mafia News. And it is about mob and mafia throughout the world. We think, when we hear about mob and mafia, we think about, the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, or 60s. We don't think that it currently exists today in the world. And we have this narrow view thinking that it's really only Italian people. And that's not true at all. And there are, first of all, in regards to it being Italian, there are many different mob families from Italy, from Calabria, and from Sicily, and from Camorra, and several other places that are one thing. But there are other mafias, and mafia is specifically meaning that they are structured a certain way, like a Godfather and a Capo Regime, and a Capo di Tutti, and specific levels of responsibility. And that is truly the definition behind mafia, or a mob group. And the mafia usually is almost always one contingent of nationality. It might be Irish, it might be Italian. Right now it's Romanian is the big thing. Mm-hmm. And that would be a mafia family contained within. A mob is usually an affiliation of non-ethnic related people who are come together for the purposes of illegal crime and whatnot. And of course, then there are gangs and everything else. There are also, in the Asian countries, there are triads, which are very organized groups of criminals, specifically the biggest and best known one being the Yakuza in Japan.
Yep.
So anyways, right now the big thing is that the Romanian mafia has come to America, and they have been putting in the, what do they call it again? It's all right. When you go to self-service at any specific store, you have a self-service card. You put your card in there to take care of it yourself. You have a checkout. And there's the scan part of that unit. And the Romanian mafia has tagged machines in Walmart, Target, and one other big major chain, which I can't think of off the top of my head, and primarily on the West Coast in Oregon, Washington, and California. However, it has filtered its way across America as far as New York. And they have been scanning people. And what they do is they come out, they put these little additional scan pieces on the self-checkout, and then they go out and sit in front of the building and they beg for money. So they're not only stealing your information off the magnetic strip on the back of your card, they're also go out front, copping cash from you as well.
Oh, wow.
And it has been a major breakout of this just in the last 2 weeks, actually. And it's something that they just broke down on. And that's the Romanian mafia. I mean, wow. Romania, that's kind of weird. So I'm sorry, I'm going on and on. But it's actually very fascinating that it still exists and that there's still so much throughout the world. I mean, Canada has a huge mafia in Montreal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the Mexican cartels and whatnot. And, South America and Medellin and Colombia and all these different places. And when you really start to look at it, it's just absolutely fascinating because there isn't any major city in the world that doesn't have some form of either a mob, a mafia, or some form of organized crime.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And these are all current and consistent news stories of the day as opposed to being old things. If you want some old stuff, you'll have to look somewhere else. But this is specifically news about today.
Absolutely.
So there you are. I just took up 4 minutes of your life right there.
Not a problem. And so that's available right now and available on the Swell app. I think we'll actually put a link to it as well on darknessradioshow.com. I've been lax in doing that, but we'll put a link to it on there. Also, there's a link on that. Absolutely. There's a link to Urban Legends and Stranger Truths on Darkness Radio Show as well, darknessradioshow.com. So check that out. Want to thank Christopher Reich for being on the program today. The book is Matterhorn. It is a spy thriller. Want you to check that out as well. There's a link in the description of this program. Check out Christopher Reich's book. It's excellent, folks. You want to check that book out. And the continued adventures of Mac Dekker. As Christopher mentioned, there is a sequel to this book coming out next year in 2025, but we want you to check out this one as it is an excellent book. Mally Fox in tomorrow for Supernatural News. And on Thursday, we've got Seth Breedlove in. We're talking American Werewolves 2. That movie is out on DVD, but we want you to check that out as well. So that'll do it for... What's that?
One quick comment.
Yeah.
Tim, before you go out, please put the clothes back on.
Oh, yes.
Because you could be arrested for lewd and lascivious behavior. That is a sex crime. And we got to try and find somebody to be host, and it's just a whole ugly mess.
Yeah, I can't be arrested. I have a show to do. I realize that. Yeah,
I don't think you're getting off with it. But
I see. Okay, so I'll put.
Unless you're doing it for the police, like that lady was, in which case you're going to get arrested anyways.
Well, if I do go out naked, I won't touch myself. So there you go. So for Bob Dennis,
I would not. Last time I went out when I was, semi-clothed, and as a matter of fact, it was really kind of a sad situation because I heard this one guy turn and go, "Oh my gosh, it's the Michelin Man!" It was not a good sight. Well, I don't do. Yeah, I don't. Not even swimming anymore, for that matter.
I guess.
Okay, you want to wrap up your show
Sure.
here? Thank you, Sid, for letting me come on and being crazy and just doing weird things.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on. Catch Bob on his shows. We'll have links in the description of this program. We'll be back tomorrow for Supernatural News. For Bob Dennis, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for being on today. We will see you tomorrow for Supernatural News, and thank you for tuning in to True Crime Tuesday.